Robert Gordon's University in Aberdeen. I am delighted to be your moderator for this second session here this morning at the conference, where we're going to explore the area of innovation and creativity and technology. There's a great quote which I'll read from Theodore Levitt, a renowned economist, saying, "Creativity is thinking up new things. Innovation is doing new things." So I'm going to explore with the panel this morning what we're actually doing, what new things are happening, what else can we do, and what else can we do to accelerate the energy transition. So we have some superb panelists. Two, actually, I'm aware, have innovation in their title, so we expect great things from you, so just be ready for that.
Great.
They're going to introduce themselves in a minute. All their bios are on the website, so please have a look, because it's just some really interesting material in there. I'm going to ask them each to introduce themselves, tell a little bit about themselves, talk about their company, and then we're going to kickstart the panel discussion thereafter. In the world of social media, please know we're going to get this filmed, so it will be available later on online as well. But there's a hashtag OEEC23. If you want to post anything, pictures out there, please do so. I think the better, more the better. So that's the plan. We have an hour, and we're going to get audience participation coming in. So you've got 20 minutes to think about a really clever question, so use that time wisely. With that in mind, can I quickly start for the panel to introduce yourself? Wietse, can I start with you?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. My name is Wietse van der Leij, representing Damen Shipyards. Myself, I have a technical background as a naval architect, but currently working as a commercial person in the offshore wind department of Damen. Damen is a family-owned company from the Netherlands. We are a ship design company, a shipyard, and a ship repair company. We operate 35 shipyards globally, and we are active in many niche markets in the shipbuilding industry. For instance, harbor and terminal, defense security, yachting, we do cargo vessels, we do dredging, we do the lot. But also in the offshore energy sector we are active. Previously more in the oil and gas, where we did support vessels, PSVs, anchor handlers, all kinds of vessels. Now it's more and more going towards offshore wind, where we do the CTVs, cable-laying vessels, and SOVs. Damen as a company, we have set ourselves a goal to become the most connected and renewable shipbuilder in the world by 2030. And that shows in every aspect in the company, to be honest. It's the way you operate your company, your shipyards, the way you select your suppliers, your materials, but also your products. So we have done the first full electric tugboat in the world that is operating in New Zealand. We have done full electric ferries, for instance. And that shows a bit the innovation side of the company. On the other side, we have a high focus on standardization on components level, system level, but also on vessel level, and series productions. And in the offshore wind industry, you can see that, for instance, our CTVs, we have standard designs of CTVs that we are building currently, over 20 of them. And also in the CSOV business, we are delighted to say we have currently 7 CSOVs under contract, all of similar design. So also there you see this series effect of standardization, which has brought our company a lot over the decades.
Brilliant, fantastic. Liz, complete perspective from the other side of the world.
Sure, great. You all can hear me? Well, good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here. It's nice to be back at OEEC. I think it was pre-COVID that I was here, so it's nice to return. My name is Liz Burdock. I'm president and CEO of the Oceanic Network. You may have known us as the Business Network for Offshore Wind, or as the IPF. We also got confused with the signature conference that we hold in the United States, but we are now the Oceanic Network. We still have our same mission, to build out the U.S. offshore wind supply chain and the market, but now we've expanded to include other ocean renewable energies as well. So floating solar, green hydrogen, produced by offshore wind, wave and tidal, among others. We really accomplish our mission a few ways. The first is through education. We hold education and trainings for companies, supply chain companies, about where they fit into the supply chain, how they can get contracts, and how the offshore wind industry works. The other way that we do it is we connect, and this has really been our bread and butter for the last decade, is connecting European companies with US companies to build up capacity and expertise. And then the third is through research. We do a lot of research on supply chain and the supply chain gaps that exist in the United States. We are a membership-based organization. I am extremely proud to say that we are the largest offshore wind membership organization in the world with close to 600 members. It's nice to be up here on stage with some of my members, and then I see a few of my members out into the audience, so a little shout out to you. So it's wonderful to be here to talk about innovation and acceleration.
Brilliantly done. Thomas.
Yes, hello, I'm Thomas Hjort. I'm Director of Innovation in Vattenfall Offshore Wind. I was originally trained as an engineer in power electronics. How boring can it be? But I have always had a passion for innovation and creating new stuff and generating new ideas and thinking about how we can change the world for a better place. And which is why I'm super happy to be in Vattenfall. And for those of you who may not know Vattenfall, Vattenfall is a utility company, an energy company. We are Swedish state-owned. I myself am from Denmark and frequently here in Amsterdam. We operate different kinds of assets ranging from our hydro plants in North Sweden, which is where the name comes from, and also a significant amount of onshore and offshore wind. We have solar, we have battery solutions, we have a lot of things, pretty much everything you need to electrify the world around us. Vattenfall has very ambitious targets on the energy transition, and we've committed to a net zero target already by 2040. And we tend to say that sustainability is not something we do, it is what we are. It is what we live for, it is what the company strategy is all about, and we do what we can to facilitate the journey to a fossil-free future. We work for fossil freedom.
Thanks, Thomas. Daniel?
Yep. So good morning, everyone. Very nice to be here. Thanks for inviting us. My name is Daniel Santa Cruz. I'm the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Director for Ocean Winds. For those that don't know Ocean Winds is a joint venture company whose owners are 50% ENGIE and the other 50% EDP Renewables. It was created in 2020, in the early 2020s. And we are a pure offshore wind player, meaning that we develop, build, and operate our projects. We have currently a pipeline of operational projects of 1.5 gigawatts. So we have a floating project in Portugal, we have a project in Belgium, CMAID, and we have a project in the United Kingdom, that's Moray East. And we are these days building 2 more gigawatts worth of installed capacity in France and in the UK. And in general, as an overall number, we have 17 gigawatts of secured capacity across the world, in South Korea, in the United States, in the UK, across Europe, etc. So yeah, that's Ocean Winds in a nutshell, and I'm super happy to be here.
Brilliant, fantastic. We've got a full room here, and actually I don't know who you are, so we're going to first figure out who's in the room, where you come from. Can you put your hands up if you're a developer? Can you put your hands up? How many developers we got in the room? Okay, sprinkling. How many supply chain people? Pretty good, all right. Innovators? Okay, this is going to be a good panel, it's going to be quite a challenge. Okay, for all of you, who think we're innovating fast enough? Put your hands up, innovating fast enough? You're saying two people here. Well, you need to cheer the rest up. Nobody else is doing that. Who thinks it's too slow? Fascinating. Panel. The best way to predict the future is to create it and innovate. How do we make these people happy here and do more innovation? You have innovation in your title. Thomas, we want to start?
So the innovation is fundamentally needed in order to change the status quo. And if we want to be real about the targets that are being set on going into a fossil-free future, we need to rethink and reinvent and optimize and improve constantly. And if we don't do that, we will simply not create the solutions that are needed to do the transition that everybody agrees is needed. So if you're not into innovation already, you should be, because every new thing starts with a thought, and a thought that grows into a new way of doing things, and that new way of doing things just may change the future slightly. So that is what should be on everybody's mind in my mind.
Daniel, only 3 people said we go fast enough. Again, it's your job, you do it on a day-to-day basis. What do you say to the rest of the room?
So it's clear that the challenge that we have ahead of us is enormous, and the clock is really ticking. We're in a race against the time. So we need to, in our opinion, we need to keep innovating for many reasons. We need to keep innovating for ensuring that we deploy the assets sufficiently quickly. That's why, for example, we, by our investment in 2009 in Principal Power, the floating foundation designer, we now are in a time where we have floating projects. And if we want to meet the targets of, that we have committed to, then we need floating, and that's clear. So that is a good example of why or how an innovation provided amplified opportunity for the industry. But not only for quick deployment, we need to keep innovating for ensuring that we fabricate components in a faster way, and that's why we are partnering and exploring possibilities with new foundation designers or innovative foundations with new fabrication methods. We need to keep innovating for ensuring that we not only don't harm the environment that surrounds our wind farms, but also we make a positive impact there. And that's why we're doing things like installing nature-inclusive designs in our next floating project in France, in EFGL. And this is about kind of steel cages where baby fish can go there and find shelter, and they're not eaten by bigger fish, so they can grow. So the population of certain species is growing and it's improving. So we are doing that. So we need innovation for that. Or we need innovation for ensuring that we are having a happy and win-win coexistence with other marine space users, such as the fishing activities. And that's why we are, in our project in Tréport in France, we are changing our layout completely to allow for a much bigger area for fishing and giving them more, wider corridors for navigating. So that's what I can tell to people that is, looking at innovation. Innovation is the future, and we need to keep on going. That's clear for us.
There's a different perspective from the US. Where are you on the innovation culture, and what can we do?
Well, I am coming in from a different perspective in the fact that while I agree that innovation is important, and it is important to continue to look across the spectrum of the supply chain and the offshore wind development process for areas for innovation, I do think that there has to come a time when we actually focus in and build the targets that we've set versus continuing to innovate and never getting steel in the water. So this is a debate that we are having in the United States right now. It's not something that I think that we have a clear answer to. When you want to say innovate, I say yes, let's innovate on the permitting and consenting side. So in the United States and other countries, we are reducing the amount of time that it takes to actually put projects in the water. So I do believe that there are innovations that are needed on permitting and consenting. I think about, if we're talking about turbine size, I think that we have to come to some sort of agreement around a turbine size, because we have to start looking at the downstream cost of turbines getting bigger, your vessels rolling off the line, and they're already obsolete. I mean, so it's hard to make those vessel investments. We're asking in the United States, we put hundreds of millions of dollars into port investment. And if we keep getting bigger and bigger turbines, those ports are going to be obsolete. So there comes a time when we have to say, quite frankly, enough is enough, and we have to focus in on building what we have so that we can build up the supply chain, so that we can get that expertise and standardization in place to actually, again, deliver the projects, and then after that, reinvest the money into innovating further. That's Liz Burdock's position. So I want to be very clear on that because there is no consensus in the United States on that position right now.
Come back to that one this later on. Witze, where are you on this one and creating this culture of innovation and technology?
Yeah, innovation, of course, in any industry is key. And looking at from our perspective as a ship designer and shipbuilder, we continue to innovate. Looking back a few years, a vessel would always be fueled on diesel, for instance. And now we're only in a few years' time, we are going on quite a fast pace already. So, of course, on our side, there's a high focus on emissions on our products. So we are innovating, looking at future fuels, other ways of propulsion, hydrogen, for instance, methanol, full electric, and all these new technologies are being now implemented in our products already. So that's going, I think, quite fast already, and we will soon see, I think, the first zero-emission ships sailing also in the offshore wind parks. Later today, we'll do the launch of our first full electric SOV. So we think it's even possible already with today's technology to have an SOV fully electric that can charge in a wind farm. So I also agree with Liz that, of course, you have to keep innovating, but at a certain point in time, you have to say, okay, we are at a technology level, and now we have to standardize. If you see happening with the wind turbine OEMs, for instance, they have been developing new and new models over the years, and they just don't make the numbers in order to make money out of a series, because then there's another model again and another model, and what happens then, of course, you get flaws in your product, you can't make money, the OEMs are not making money, and that's not helping the business further. So somehow we need to standardize at a certain moment in time, cap the amount of megawatts or something like that in order to accelerate.
Brilliant. I spent years and years of my life on the board of technology accelerators, and it was very clear. The reason why I asked you a question what your background is it's not always clear what technology is required and what sequence, what the priorities are. What is the message you have for the audience here? Developers, technology providers, supply chain companies. How do we get clear what the priorities are? Could be Europe, could be the Netherlands, could be in the US. Because if you don't know what it is, it's very hard to develop the technology. So Liz, from your perspective, how do you get the priorities clear? You know, is it wind, is it hydrogen, is it insulation, is it blades, is it size? It's so many different things can be innovated on. How do we get a clarity what people need to innovate on?
I think you get clarity around the workforce issue. I think that we all know that there is not enough people to do the work that we have ahead of us in the offshore wind. So where I think innovation comes in is around those technologies that can take the manpower out at sea and put that into autonomous vessels, autonomous types of blade inspections where we can reduce the number, and even in the manufacturing, where we can reduce the number of people, and I know politicians don't want to hear this, but there are jobs, they're just different jobs, and by making those innovations more available so that we can actually have the manpower to deliver the projects that we need. So those are the areas where I think innovation needs to occur. I would agree on the, reducing our carbon footprint is another area of innovation. The vessels are an area, whether or not it's manufacturing in our, our towers, our foundations, our blades, figuring out innovations where we're less carbon intensive. Those are all areas of innovation that I think this industry could look at in a more serious way.
Thomas, It's in your title, right? So again, back to the innovation is in your title. How do you set the clarity of what Vattenfall needs to do in the innovation area? Are you clear what the top 5 priorities are, when you need them, and how do you get the supply chain engaged in that?
So I think that when we set a strategy for what we need to innovate into is it needs to support our mission to enable fossil freedom, to deliver on the CO2 reductions and so on that we do. And then we need to figure out how we do that best. And also to the discussion on should turbines be bigger or not, I don't think it's something that we should set a stop or a go for. It's a matter of whether it's the right thing to do when you consider all the elements of the equation. Innovation is not only the bigger turbine, it is also the vessel types that we need to use when we service and install our wind farms. So I think there's a lot of balancing things in it. We need to innovate where it makes the biggest difference, and we need to innovate respectful of the supply chain that needs to deliver it afterwards. But I'm not going to say that we will not look at the bigger turbine if one is being offered to us. We would look at a new vessel if that is being offered to us. It is all a matter of making sure that it is the best possible compromise of people and resources and supply chain constraints and so on that forms the future. Where I think the next big innovation area is we look at a country like Denmark. It's a completely different animal than the US, where the wind introduction into the grid is relatively limited. In Denmark, we have a very high wind penetration into our grid, so we see some of the problems of a large build-out of wind, technical problems, emerging first, and therefore we need to innovate to find solutions on integrating it better, finding the next generation of an offshore wind farm. Does it have to have the same performance characteristics as the one that was optimized for a world 10 years ago? Those are the things that need to guide our overall innovation journey. And innovation is bringing it all the way to industrialization. So we're not stopping innovating. We just prioritize when what is done.
Daniel, what does good or great look like in innovation, right? So are there any sectors who do great innovation? I mean, I look at the IT sector, the computing sector, do some fantastic pieces. What can we learn from that? Or from Formula One, who does fantastic bits of innovation? What does good and great look like in the energy sector? Have you got any insights? So what does good or great look like in the energy sector? Other sectors have been very successful. I use Formula One because I love watching it, I love the technology and what they do. Describe good or great for us.
So a little bit coming back to this strategy question and the priorities question, I believe, all of us are sharing the same goal here. We want to get to that point, whatever the point is, CO2 reductions, whatever. But any company has to decide which way they take. And it's a very, individual per company, I would say. In our case, we also have a strategy for innovation that is aligned with the strategy of the company. And based on that strategy, we have defined what we call the technology roadmap for ocean winds, where we are prioritizing the different areas that we would like to look for solutions in order to be more competitive and more innovative. So that technology roadmap is what is driving our efforts to look for innovative solutions and in audiences like these ones. In addition to that, we practice what we call the open innovation, or what it's called open innovation, which basically means that we are conscious that we don't have the power to solve the challenges that we have ahead alone. So we need the help of our competition, our suppliers, academia, everyone. So that's why we, from time to time, we publish our own challenges and we seek for solutions. And we seek for solutions not only within the offshore wind industry, we kind of open it to the public, and whatever the industry is, if they can provide a solution that is helping us tackle or resolve our challenges, then that's great. And that's where other markets, other industries come into play with offshore wind. We are seeing that a lot of companies from the oil and gas sector have stepped into the offshore wind business and are stepping, and that's great news. We are seeing companies from other industries proposing solutions to us from other sectors. I think every effort is little when compared to the challenge that we have. Therefore, we need to bring the knowledge of everyone together to be able to resolve our issues, our challenges. So, in terms of what does success look like in terms of innovation in the offshore wind industry, I could bring the example of, again, the floating industry. Back in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we didn't have any floating wind farm. Now we have, if I'm not wrong, 3 floating wind farms in the world, or at least 3 commercial ones, and we are building just one in France, and we have a pipeline of several gigawatts of floating wind farms in South Korea, in California, in the UK. This is a success story because floating is not only an alternative to fixed bottom offshore. Floating is by nature opening up new areas, new possibilities for countries that only have deep waters. They cannot do bottom fixed, or for countries that they have, shallow waters and deep waters, but the shallow ones are already crowded with wind farms. So floating has opened up new opportunities, and this is helping us deploy the capacity that we need to deploy for achieving our targets. Therefore, I would kind of suggest this example as what does success look like in innovation.
Oh yeah, Liz, I want to come back to your point. Let Witze go first on this one. We've got a bucket load of technology already out there, which is just ready to be deployed, where we don't, right? We're just inventing new stuff. How do we get a mechanism where we deploy what we already have? Can we start with yourself? Because you're doing a lot of great stuff, but also new thing, but also existing technologies we just don't even use.
A way to deploy what we already have. I think we are constantly looking at all kinds of new technologies and implementing them in our products. So it's a way of looking at innovations, trying to see which innovations are useful, which are not, implement them, and at a certain point in time, you have to start production, so to say. So, maybe I can elaborate more on your question.
Yeah, I'm just conscious there's hundreds and hundreds of technologies out there. Yeah. The developers not necessarily doing it because they want proven technology. So actually we don't even implement what we currently have, and we're inventing new things. Point I think Liz you made to some extent as well. Yeah. Can we just do not more of using what we already have, implement it faster, better, smarter?
Of course, there's a lot already, and you can implement that. But I think what also Daniel mentioned, what is key in driving this innovation and implementing technologies is working together in this field. For instance, we can design and build you a vessel, but eventually we have to work together with the developers of the wind farms, with the operators, in order to make that a success. Give the example of the full electric SOV. We can make the full electric vessel, but we have to work together with developers to implement that also on the turbines, on the substations. That cannot work if we don't work together. Also with, for instance, charging systems, other companies have to step in order to make all this technology work.
Right. I just wanted to question before I go to the audience questions here. If you follow the money, right? Money gets a long way. You look at how much money is spent on research and development, and I did my homework here, right? Netherlands, just over 2% of GDP is spent on R&D. UK, 3%. Germany, just over 3%. The leading countries in the world spend double that. Yeah, Korea, others. How do we spend more money? If we want to be the leaders, you're going to have to spend some more money. How are we going to do that? Liz?
How do we get our leaders to spend more money in R&D?
Because the leading countries are doing it, right? So if you want to say you want to be the leader, you want to be ahead, you're going to have to spend the money to do it. So how do we create that? So you have a voice of industry, you represent 600 plus companies. How do you get a message across into governments that if you want to do more, you need to spend more?
Well, I mean, we are spending a lot of money in the United States on all clean energies, not just offshore wind, obviously. And offshore wind is a new industry in the United States. where we are looking, I don't think we're doing enough R&D in the United States. We have a very small program. It needs to be much larger. I look at the UK and what they do with Catapult, for example, which is, a great program. I think that is something where, joint industry partnerships need to be the norm. And I think this gets to your point where, there needs to be more collaboration around an issue that we solve through innovation in order to be able not just to create the innovation, but to actually deploy it. Because when all the industry partners come together, to me, seems to be the fastest way to get an innovation into the offshore wind sector and stop doing business as usual. So that would be my suggestion, that all countries look at more joint industry partnerships and as a way of really leveraging the public sector dollars with the private sector dollars.
Right. Any other comments, Daniel?
Yeah, so I am not sure this is only about spending more money. I think there's also a component of being smarter in how you spend the money. So I would say that you can spend all the money you want if you don't have in place the right structures, the right processes for innovation to thrive, for innovation to survive, then you're not going to get there. So it's not about encouraging to spend more money. It's about making sure that there is a vision, that there is a willing to innovate, and that has to do with encouragement, with financial schemes, with funding mechanisms. So there is a will from organizations, from governments to innovate. There is the structures, as I was saying, the processes for innovation, the assurance that if you fail, there's nothing wrong about it. And we should not demonize failure, because innovation is about exploration, and exploration is about the unknown, the uncertain. So it's more a mindset than a pure question of money spending, I would say. Also training. Innovation is not something magical that everyone can do from an overnight. It's a managerial discipline and needs to be trained. So smart spending rather than more spending, I would argue for that.
Smarter. Okay,
Can I just add something to that? And I agree with you, but I think there's an educational component that also has to be added into this conversation, and it's an educational component with three main sectors. One is your regulators, whatever country you're in. The second is the insurance companies, and the third is the banks. I mean, it's one thing to create an innovation, but if you can't get it insured, if it's not bankable, and your regulators won't approve it,
what you can do is
there's nothing you can do. So so when we talk about innovation, you have to include those three audiences, and you have to do a lot of education.
Brilliant. On that theme, I want to go to the audience and just open up for questions. There's a mic coming. If you can mention your name and your question, keep it short, so we can put as many questions in. There's one here at the front here. Can we get a microphone? Gentleman here.
Hi, my name is Michiel van Ginsteren. I work for Van Oort and in the warranty business, so basically in the O&M phase of wind parks. So last year I had a question about technology innovation. I was looking for the ideal boat for my department to use to perform works in offshore wind parks, and now I would like to join Liz in your approach on where to accelerate and where not to, where to innovate. And from my personal perspective, the question is very simple. Anybody of you can take it. It's a twofold question. We have GWO and we have BOSIT training. Anybody that goes offshore sometimes has to do both. So that to me is a waste of, let's say, not smart investing. And the second one is, do you think it's possible to combine a coating expert, an ICCP expert, an electrical expert, a mechanical expert, an ROV pilot, and a rope access technician all in one person?
Wow. Those are some serious questions. Let's start with the training, different training for different sectors. Anybody want to pick it up?
It's your developer thing.
I think I understand that seems illogical, and that I also know that that's something that has been brought up in cross-company discussions and so on in various countries. I think it's something that is more related to the standardization of requirements than it is to the innovation of new ways of doing it, but I think it's definitely an area that would benefit from standardization across the board.
Yeah. Just for those who are not familiar with the concept, there's different requirements for those who work on operational sites for the wind sector as for the oil and gas sector. If you take the basic approach, in the future there's only one workforce, an energy workforce. You need to have transferable skills. The endpoint is clear, the journey is not. I think that's the thing you point out, and I think it's all us as demand of that service to get it right. So I think that's one. The other one is combining all these capabilities into one person. Wow. Help.
I don't think it's possible to combine all of that into one person, but it is possible to make one person capable of addressing all the different areas by having the knowledge available to him and having a support system that can combine that information. But I don't think there's a limit to how much complexity one mind can comprehend and work with at once. And if the problem becomes too big, then the human brain shuts down and simplifies the question. And then you get simplified answers. So I think that's where you need to rely on a combination of input givers to find the solution to whatever problem you're facing and whatever direction you want to set.
Can I take your question and maybe ask a slightly different way? This is a conversation I've been in many times, is where you separate expertise from execution. So you can have somebody sitting on a remote site to a connected worker concept, they can see everything, and basically somebody gives them onshore, wherever they are in the world, the instructions. So you separate expertise from execution. Do you think that's going to happen in your business? I mean, you're kind of an operational business. Do you see it already happening?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's going to happen. I think it's being implemented already. I've seen pilots on that subject where vessel crew is able to communicate with experts onshore, either via visual or via text, where actually there's like an augmented reality or some kind of other technology where somebody from shore can give directions in order to help with a problem, fix it, solve it. So that is being implemented already, I would say. So, and I definitely see a future for that technology.
Yeah. Are you confident that's going to happen? We get the microphone back to you. You think it's going to happen? Yes or no?
Yes, I think the solution is called a halo. And this is a system where you can have a technician on a wind farm and you can be connected to a back office of experts like a NASA control room explaining to an astronaut who has a problem how to fix the problem.
Okay, so I like the terminology halo.
Much.
Halo is a nice terminology. Yeah. Right, other questions? This one here and one here. We're going to go to this gentleman here first. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jelle Hofstra from Confutures, and I see that to make the energy transition succeed, we need innovation, and not only optimization, but also new technologies. An example for the Netherlands, we need offshore electrolysis to bring all the energy offshore to shore. That is identified. The title of this session is Innovate or Accelerate, but I think it should be how do we accelerate innovation? And maybe from the developer side, can you give an example of how you accelerate innovation that is already identified? Thank you.
Oh, nice question. Accelerate innovation, developers.
I can try to answer that question, or at least our perspective. So for us, as I said before, we are conscious that we cannot do this alone. That's point number one, and that's why we do open innovation. That said, that's bringing us to the fact that we are collaborating actively with other developers, including Vattenfall here, in joint projects. So we are competing in our bids, auctions, etc., but we're also collaborating in joint projects where we define what are the challenges that we are facing, what are the solutions that should be implemented, and we execute jointly those solutions. So how do you speed up innovation? How do you accelerate innovation? By sharing knowledge, by sharing risks, by collaborating with non-obvious collaborators. As a competitor, as a competitor could be. That's the way we think we can accelerate innovation.
And maybe an answer to another fraction of the question. If we look at the overall innovation that has been put into offshore wind for the last 20 years, it has all had one purpose, and that is to make it competitive to oil and gas, or to create a real alternative. It was actually only when we got to the zero subsidy projects that world really opened and allowed the politicians to take the bold decisions of going to 450 gigawatts capacity in the EU. That came from an innovation journey, and Hollandse Kust South, which Vattenfall just inaugurated a few months ago, was the first real zero subsidy tender won project. And it has since then opened the amount of projects that are being offered, allowing for growing scale, having a growth motor to pay for the innovation that are then needed to do the other stuff that you are also referring to, like how do we integrate with hydrogen, how do we integrate with the other energy systems that we need to integrate with in order to create the full transition. So there's a number of examples on how the growth of the offshore industry on its own has been a accelerating path.
Can I come to you? Sorry. You work for multiple clients, right?
Yes.
Do you see that happening, that they learn, they accelerate, they collaborate? Is that actually happening, and then you see it on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, we see that. They are actually putting out the same requirements for vessels. They're really similar. I'm going back to the vessels again because that is what I know. But you really see these developers coming out with similar requirements of vessels. So there has to be some kind of a collaboration, learning from each other, and also discussions in how to, well, tackle this together. And it's also, I believe, like Ardent was saying, it's the only way to accelerate this innovation is in working together. And in even working together with your competitor, I think that is very, very high standard. I don't really, well, to be honest, I don't see that happening that much in the shipbuilding industry yet. And maybe we can do that also in the near future. But collaborating with your competitor, I think it's a very good step in order to accelerate innovation all together. And yeah, I really believe that's happening, if that was your question.
That's good.
And maybe as a reflection also, I don't see our competition as competition in my daily work. I see them as sharing a vision on what the future should be, and facilitating some of the innovations that needs to happen in order to get there. Then it is true when we get to the auction of a specific project, then we are in fierce competition in order to secure the site. But if we don't win it, the stuff that we have worked on, if it doesn't get into reality, then all of that effort would have been lost. So I don't see Ørsted as my competitor. I don't see Ocean Winds as my competitor on a day-to-day basis. I do it in the winning of tenders.
No, that's brilliant. Brilliant.
And I think that's pretty unique of this industry. The fact that competitors are so naturally collaborating in joint initiatives. Just the last point to your question. I had another example of how to accelerate innovation. Look at the last year's auction in the Netherlands, the Hollandse Kust West auction, where the rules of the game were you need to provide, in order to win this tender, you need to provide innovative solutions for enhancing nature around the wind farms. Well, that simple, in appearance, simple criteria shifted the whole supply chain and made them look in a different direction for pursuing this same goal. And that included developers, wind turbine manufacturers, foundation manufacturers, installation companies. Everyone was contributing to providing solutions for that. Now, that's a clear example of how a regulator, a government, can make a decision to accelerate some bits of the innovation landscape.
Brilliant. I'm going to take some more questions from the audience. There are a few more here. Can we just put your hands up again? There's one here and one here. So we start. Oh, start there, perfect. Yeah, close to the microphone.
Yes, good afternoon. Timothy Vervaat from Ghent University. And I have a question about, you mentioned the regulators, that we also need to take them in the discussion for the acceleration of renewable energy. And my question is, nowadays we actually see even in the United States that the growth of offshore wind is actually also a bit slowing down due to the long time it takes for permitting. And this is really sad to see that we miss a big opportunity to install the capacity within the next decade due to the slow permitting. So the question is maybe not only for the United States but also Europe, how we can overcome this and speed up the permitting.
So did I hear two questions in there? There's a regulation question and a timing and permitting question. Is that what I hear you saying? Liz, it has to go to you first.
Sure. So you are right. In the United States, I think we now estimate it takes 8 years to get a project from it being sited to FID, essentially, which is obviously way too long. I do think that innovation can help us in those areas. Specifically, I think that there are AI applications that we should be using in our siting and permitting phase when we're collecting data and ocean data, instead of having our floating LiDARs out there for 2 years. We could reduce that by probably a year, or maybe even only have them out there for 6 months, because we have a ton of data sets that already exist on ocean information. And just by using an AI program, we could look at that and model that out versus actually making those buoys be out there for literally for a 2-year period. So just in that example, we can shave off, almost, if not a year, maybe even 18 months in this permitting time frame. So that is one area that I do think that innovation is really important to accelerate deployment. But here's the thing. Our regulators in the United States won't take, for whatever reason, when we're trying very hard to figure this out, won't take a lot of the oil and gas innovation that exists out there that we're actually using in our Gulf of Mexico with oil and gas exploration. They won't adopt them into the offshore wind industry. I mean, we are trying to solve this problem as we speak, but this is a problem, and this is where I do think that the education of the regulators needs to happen in order to help reduce this permitting time frame. So those are reasons why we're seeing it. There are other reasons why things are delayed in the United States that has nothing to do with the permitting process. It has to do with supply chain capacity. We don't have enough companies in the U.S. participating in the offshore wind industry. Period. Worldwide, we've seen a frenzy, like literally a frenzy on offshore wind. We've seen, countries that didn't have offshore wind goals now announce new offshore wind goals and get into the game. And we've seen countries, European countries, double and triple their goals. So, I mean, it is there's a lot of work to go around, and there are very few developers and there are very few tier 1 supply chain companies, so we're seeing that crunch. And the other reason is vessels. I mean, I will say that the vessel issue is a big issue in the United States. I do not want a Jones Act question, so please do not ask me a Jones Act question. But it is an issue that we are grappling with in the United States right now. So there's a lot of reasons why, not just the permitting, that things are happening in the United States the way they are.
Brilliant. I'm going to take more questions from the audience. I want to get as many in, but I said Liz is available afterwards, and what she's saying is similar in Europe. There was a question here first, here in the middle, and then come in the back. Gentleman here.
Hi, my name is Ralph Donners, Skyborn Renewables. I was wondering, as Liz and Wietse already hinted, what if the capacity or the max of the height or of a turbine will be maximized, and what would that do for developers? So for Thomas and for Daniel, where would your innovation make the biggest impact then?
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
You need to shout a bit. Sorry, there's quite a lot of noise in here. So.
Okay. What if the turbine size is maximized you want to make your innovations where it makes the most impact, where would it steer you then? What would that do for you?
So big turbine, where do you maximize the impact of innovation? You already know they're going to get bigger. Where's the big innovation come from?
If we cap it, where would it be? Is that the question? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So for sure it will be on how the wind farm is integrated, or the product from the wind farm is integrated into the grid. So yes, there's a number of smaller innovations on steel types and the actual constructions and so on. But if you have a tip height constraint, then your rotor is locked by size, and then the turbine will not be able to do more. But you can still play around with the functional aspects of it. You can look at when it produces compared to wind speed. You can look at the load spectrum it needs to live in. But I think the most important thing is how it integrates with the energy system that it connects to onshore. And I'm deliberately saying energy system, not only electrical system. I think that's where the next big innovation round, or it's already happening, where it will continue to be focused. Okay. If the turbine size is fixed.
I can't keep you rolling on. There's many questions in. There was one in the back there. Again, if you don't mind, speak up quite loudly because there's a background noise here.
Hi, Mike Greenwood. I was wondering what each of you think the low-hanging fruit for innovation is in each of your spheres of influence.
Could you hear that? Sorry. Apologies, I don't know if you could hear, but I...
Low-hanging fruit. What's the low-hanging fruit for each of you in your spheres of influence you would tackle first?
Brilliant. Low-hanging fruit. I'm going to start here with what low-hanging fruit, things you can do quickly in innovation.
What we can do quickly is implement what's already out there. And from a vessel point of view, I would say methanol-powered vessels, methanol-powered SOVs, CTVs, for electric, again, hydrogen is already available. So that is applying innovative technology that's already commercially available, which can be a viable solution for a vessel that will be the low-hanging fruit at the moment.
Liz, low-hanging fruit from your members?
For me, it's the adoption of AI into the permitting and siting process.
Fascinating. Low-hanging fruit from Vattenfall?
I don't know if there are any specific low-hanging fruits, but there may be some that are lower than others. I basically agree very much that it's a matter of bringing the innovations that have been prepared over the last years into play on larger scale. I think that's one of the biggest things that we could do right now.
Okay. Daniel, any low-hanging fruits you see?
So we are part of the GLOBE project, which is measuring the blockage effect in the wind farms. And we are understanding much better that effect now. And that's creating differences in the power output of the expected power output of the wind farms. So I would say that one is an important one.
Brilliant. Any other questions from the audience? Don't be shy. This is a chance. One here, please.
Philip Woodcock, Windward Maritime. Does the increase in nationalistic politics around the world help or hinder wind farm development?
So now you can make slightly apolitical, sorry, just to make sure that it's changing in government policy, things are getting a little bit more complicated. Do you see that happening?
Of course, politics has a huge impact. You know, that's super clear. I put the example of the auction in the Netherlands, HKW, last year. It was, driven by policy. I don't know. I cannot answer about the different parties or political questions. But of course, regulators have a huge impact in our industry. This is a highly regulated industry where the end consumer is oftentimes represented by governments. So any decision from governments and regulators is having an immediate effect in how the industry works. Yeah.
Okay, Thomas, change of politics.
I would just like to comment on the question because it is really a good question. The world picture of having Asia and US and Europe with different agendas and different approaches to the problem provides opportunities for some provides problems for others. I don't think there's a one answer that fits the entire value chain in that. I think that if we want to facilitate the next generation of a wind farm, it needs to be done in a place where we have the problems of integrating a lot of wind, and I think for now that's Northern Europe, whereas going big may be the biggest problem elsewhere, and the solutions for that may be different.
Okay, conscious of time, people will be available afterwards. I'm going to do a quick fire round, right? You got 10 seconds to answer the question, right? So no long answers, short answers. And we're going to go for lunch next, and I want you to make sure you leave the audience in a happy place. This is your responsibility. Right, first question. I'm going to get you a speaking slot at COP28. You can speak to all the world leaders about innovation. What message are you going to leave for them? Liz.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to leave them a message on innovation, but I'm going to go back to
10 seconds, Liz.
Oh, I don't think nationalistic policies help the offshore wind industry. I think the fact that, I'm sorry, and it's not going to be 10 seconds. I think we have to look at the offshore wind industry as a global industry, and that every time a project is delayed in Asia, there's a knock-on effect in Europe, or there's a knock-on effect in the US. And I think understanding that this is integrated and that it is dependent upon each other, we're codependent upon each other, is really super important. And unless every nation wants to invest billions of dollars in building out their own supply chain, we have to look at it holistically. And so that is a really, really important point. And I think that it would be great if there was more national self-awareness on this. And I can say that from the US, like, we need more self-awareness of where we fit into the supply, into the global offshore wind industry.
That's a long stretch of 10 seconds.
Sorry.
Thomas, what's your view on
in 10
seconds? What is it? COP28, you have a message. What's the message?
I would definitely say to them that if you ask the right question, the answers will come. If you consider this as a crisis that is of the scale that I think it is, show action by making sure that funding is available large scale, then the solutions will be provided. We are ready to take the technology and innovation challenge. The ramping up is expensive and needs funding and backing.
You have different clocks in your country, isn't it? 10 seconds, Daniel.
I would tell them, innovation means growth. Innovation if well done, means progress. It needs encouragement. It needs structures and processes. It needs training.
Fantastic.
Spend smart.
Okay, we're getting shorter. Wietse?
Sure. Okay. I would emphasize on collaboration between companies, between governments, between instances, in order to accelerate innovation. So collaboration.
I'm going to stick to the 10-second rule. I want to get well in quick words, right? So not looking for long answers. That's another time. What's the one ask here for people in the audience in terms of innovation? What do you want people to do? Wietse, what do you want them to do?
What do people to do?
Okay, come back to you.
Yeah, sorry, but
Liz?
Come to us with your best ideas.
Come back to your ideas. Fantastic. This is getting better.
That was
trust that it can be done.
Okay, trust, Daniel?
I echo Liz's words. Come to us with good ideas. We are eager to collaborate and bring them to life.
Okay. Wietse, any further thing?
I would say to the people, set yourself a goal, dot on the horizon, and work towards that.
Okay, so goal on the horizon. If you could do one thing differently in innovation space yourself, right? So you think about 2024 is coming, you can do one thing differently. What would you do different? Thomas, I'm going to start with you.
What would I do different? I would make sure that the agenda is set before we try to answer the questions.
Okay, agenda set. Yep. Very good. Very clever. Daniel?
Make sure all strategies are aligned.
Aligned strategies, yeah. Liz?
I would not confuse innovation with just rebuilding, meaning that when you're just rebuilding a turbine and making it bigger, that isn't necessarily innovation.
Okay, clear. Wietse?
maybe that rules and regulations sometimes hinder innovation, so they should be more flexible.
Okay, more flexibility. I'm really sorry, we've run out of time. I know the panel members are probably around for quite a bit more later on this afternoon, so you probably can find them afterwards. Big thank you, first of all, to all of you for being here and for your questions. Absolutely brilliant. There are more conversations this afternoon, so if you like it, please come back. But also some great conversations happening on the stage, which is on the other side of the hall. Please post it on social media, always very powerful. And of course, you can look at it online. But if we can close before we go for lunch, can you please join me in thanking our fantastic panel and for great answers and the questions. Thank you.